So I'm going to first start off by using a concealer. Obviously, you guys have seen this concealer multiple times. And I'm going to go ahead and lay down a nice layer of concealer. And this is just going to act as my eyeshadow base so that all of my eyeshadows will blend together properly. Also, make sure that whenever you are blending out the concealer, that everything is properly blended because you want a nice, even, flat surface. You don't want any unblended areas because then it'll make your eyeshadows very patchy. As a beginner tip, I am going to say actually set the concealer this time because you want to make sure that all of your eyeshadows are going to blend out properly. If you don't actually set it, then you run the risk of having patchy eyeshadow, which is not what we want. So set the concealer and then put your eyeshadows on top of that. So I will be using the Dose of Colors Katie and Desi Friendcation palette. I do like this palette a lot because the eyeshadows are very blendable, and even just the colors I'm using are easy to use every day, and you can spice it up as well. So I'm going to just take a nice fluffy brush and I'm going to go ahead and take this color here. And it's almost like a flesh tone color. So whenever you start, you want to use a flesh tone color because this is going to act as your transition color. All the other colors that you place on top of this will help blend it out easier.
I'm rich, so I can pretty much get whatever I want, so, because I'm rich, I have money.
So after sweeping the transition color everywhere, I'm going to go ahead and take a slightly darker color and I'm going to use a dense and smaller tapered brush. This is going to help to focus only in the crease area, and I'm going to do just that with this color. I chose to use this color because this is going to help give a little bit of dimension. Again, when you use darker colors, it's going to recede, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to emphasize the crease that I have using this darker shade. Using small circular motions, I'm going to go ahead and just blend that color into the transition color we first laid down. This is going to help give the dimension that we're looking for, but make sure to blend out any harsh lines. I feel like people are under the impression that blending is just a 1, 2, 3 process, but it does take a while to blend out the eyeshadows. I feel like whenever you see a tutorial, they kind of speed past all the blending that actually is being done behind scenes. So just be aware of that. Like, you can see that I actually need to blend out a little bit more. And if you find that you're having troubles doing so, go back in with the previous color and go right over it. It should blend out a little bit easier. But again, beware of the quality of the eyeshadow that you're using. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I could stop here and just add a light color to the eyelid area, but I wanted a little bit more dimension, so I'm just going to use the darkest shade in the palette, and I'm going to go ahead and just focus that only in the corner of my eye. in a little V shape. As you can see, I'm packing on the color a bit, and it is going to look a little patchy, but I am going to go back and blend that out. But for now, I'm just packing on the color so that I can get the maximum payoff, and then I'm going to go ahead and blend it out. So the technique that I'm using is a very basic technique. Again, that's why it's called a basic eyeshadow tutorial. So these are just basic steps to getting a little bit of, like to get an eyeshadow look. You can use any colors that you want. Just be mindful of the colors that easily blend into each other, like pinks into purples or blues into greens. And that's gonna just be a simple guideline as to what colors to use and how to mix them. It all just depends on what look you're going for. So now that everything is blended out, I'm gonna use a flat brush to go ahead and apply the shimmer shade, and this is only going to go onto my lid. A pro tip is to wetting the brush with a setting spray or a face mist and going ahead and applying it onto the lid. I find that sometimes the best tool to use is your finger, and I think I ended up doing so afterwards just because it was just getting a little messy. But sometimes, your best tool is going to be your finger, so don't be afraid to use it. Make sure that everything is blended out every step of the way. It just makes it easier and more seamless to do it in between colors. That way you know that everything is blended out and you don't look crazy, okay? As you can see, I wasn't happy with the color payoff that I was getting by using the brush, so I ended up just giving up and using my finger. And you can see the difference. The color is a little bit more pigmented, more vibrant, and it just looks better. So again, don't be afraid to get messy. Like, makeup is supposed to be fun, and you don't have to follow a certain rule to get something. If it works for you, then just do it. So here I'm just using my eye socket as a guideline to where I'm actually going to place the shimmer shade. So you just go ahead and outline where we're going to put the shimmer shade and just fill it in.
I'm rich, so I can pretty much get whatever I want, so, because I'm rich, I have money.
This next step is going to be scary for some, but necessary for most, because I know I for sure was not blessed with long lashes. What I am going to do is tight line my lash line, and this step is just going to create the illusion that I have thicker and longer lashes. I know, like, looking at it, it's kind of scary, but if you can manage, tight line it. I promise you it'll make a difference, especially if you're not wearing lashes, which I decided not to in this video because I didn't want to overwhelm you guys with, certain steps. But this Marc Jacobs mascara is bomb AF, okay? Like, it's almost as good as my Urban Decay Perversion mascara, but not quite. you know, like I really don't want to give it that much credit. But after tightlining, just put some mascara on, put a couple quotes. I like to do about 2 coats just because I told you guys I really don't have any lashes. But 2 coats and kind of wiggle at the root. This will help.
Oh, this actually looks really good.
You see that?
You see it?
Do you see that? It'll help create thickness where it needs to be. I'm taking that same liner and I'm going to go ahead and line my bottom lash line. Some people do not like this step because it does tend to close the eyes. However, I like a more smoky and sultry look. So lining my bottom lash line does not bother me, but this is not a necessary step. Makeup is like math. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So the same thing applies with makeup. What you do on the top, you kind of want to do on the bottom, just to kind of even everything out. So all the colors that I've used in my crease and on my lid, I'm going to go ahead and just lightly dust that on the bottom lash line as well. This last step is completely optional. What I'm doing is taking a very light shade. It can be a matte, but it can also be a shimmer, and I'm just going to do an inner corner highlight. This is going to help to open up my eyes. Makeup is all an illusion, and this is what I'm creating, an illusion. I want to make my eyes look bigger and brighter, so what I'm doing is popping in the inner corner highlight. Be careful with this step though, because it can go left super quick. Be very careful and intentional of where you're putting your shimmer shade or matte shade in the corner. And that's it for a basic eyeshadow tutorial. I hope that this video was super helpful to those that struggle with eyeshadow, and I will see you guys in my next video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
No IOU or debit cards, I need cash money. So back up.
I'm rich, so I can pretty much get whatever I want. So, because I'm rich, I have money.